Hello, welcome back to 3 Delirium. My name is AJ, and this week we have a print that technically failed. But instead of recycling the model, I want to finish printing it and then paint it. Let's go see what that will entail while I'm spending the whole time healing up, you know? Well, I did it again. On countless previous videos, I've said it over and over. Don't walk away from the print. But, to my credit, I don't really ever plan on sitting here in this chair, staring at the printer for 5+ hours to make sure the whole thing works. Therefore, this kind of mistake must be inevitable. Even though I have switched to cleaning with isopropyl alcohol, and I've waited and watched the first few layers go down, that usually means that the print will finish the whole way through. But alas, my 5+ hour print seemed to fail in its 4th hour. I've also attempted to print this little guy with a rather high quality. The more things I print, the more it holds true that if something is worth printing, it's probably worth printing well. Because once it's printed in poor quality, then the item will always be in poor quality. All these factors lead to this. The poor print failed after half a day of printing, and this is a rather long time spent and a decent amount of filament used, so therefore I wanted to finish it. The print itself, it's not going to be completely as good as I want it to be, so then maybe I'll give it a better paint job than I expect. There we are. Well, it seems his heels might have had an issue as well as the crown on the top of his head, so I just need to print some new feet, and I'll print a new crown, and when they're done printing, we can get started painting. First, I need to clean up both spots where I'll be gluing new pieces. The excess filament on the top of his head will take a bit of trimming, it'll take a bit of sanding, and maybe even some melting. But his feet will merely need to be snipped off. Once the new pieces are on and the glue is dry, a base coat with some white primer will finish off this step. Second, we're on to the yellow paint. This is a rather dark yellow, almost a brown. Since it's the first color going on, this one I want to be the darkest, and then all of the rest will get lighter and lighter. After a few coats of that, thin coats, we're on to the beige tones of his beak and feet. That's right, I'm trying to use multiple coats of thinned out paint to show off what detail I can, right? We spent such a long time to make sure the print had some fine detail. Well, I want to make sure that it can be seen once it's done being painted. Once the two main colors are done, it's off to the next step, which is highlighting. As a third step, I guess we could call it highlighting. So what I'm doing is adding a lighter shade of paint on the top surfaces. So if we imagine the sun shining down from directly above, these are the spots that the rays of light would hit the hardest. After highlighting the beak though, I wasn't quite happy with how it turned out. So I'm going to try adding some shader. This is kind of like an ink, and it's meant to help blend the beige of the beak and, combined with the white highlighting. I've heard people call shade talent in a bottle. Really, you just kind of slap it on and it does what would be very hard to do while regular painting. This particular one is called Seraphim Sepia, and it's kind of my nemesis. Every time I use it, it doesn't quite act the way I expect, and this time is no exception. It left the beak blotchy on top, and it pulled really badly in the bottom. So I can try to dip my brush in some water and thin out the shade as we use it, but that's only going to work well enough. So then, all that's left to do is tidy up his black hair, give some life to his eyes by adding a dot for each pupil, and he's ready for some clear coat sealer. Well, he didn't quite end up how I expected, but what project ever does? It was still a fun, albeit time-consuming project. Each and every layer of paint and touch-up seemed to take ages to dry. What do you think? Do you think it's worth it to try to make higher quality prints at the slightly increased risk of failure? The more time spent printing, the longer it has an opportunity to fail. Have you ever tried painting 3D prints? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. But thank you for joining us here on 3 Delirium, where we all can hallucinate about the possibilities of 3D printing. And I'll see you next time.